Welcome to the Music Reel. I'm Nicola Burton, your host. I've got with me Manny from Pushworth Group. And I also have today a very special guest, Simone UBaldi, who is the booker for the Croxton in Thornbury. But the most important reason why she's here today is she's the co-director for Save Our Scene campaign. Simone, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Nikki. Thanks for having me.
Oh, look, we really want to have this conversation. This is a good one. I mean, look, we're based in Brisbane, but when we do our national tours, we're taking our artists down through mainly the independents in Victoria and Melbourne. So the independent bookers, the independent venues. Now, here we are, it's 2020. The ability for people in the events, hospitality and music industries to run their business has been severely hampered. So, we've got a village that grows this whole industry, and at the moment, this village is not earning any money. So tell us about Save Our Scene and what we can do to get the word out there.
So Save Our Scene is a movement that's kind of grown out of the Melbourne bookers and venue owners collectives that got together immediately after the restrictions were put in place for COVID-19. For a long time, we were just sort of waiting and watching what was happening with health developments because, like everyone else, we fully appreciate that our city, our state, our country and our world is in crisis because of the virus. And then as things started to move towards directions of reopening and talking about a path back, venue owners particularly whose businesses have been completely crippled by the restrictions started to kind of organise and come together and go, okay, you know what, we've put the priorities of the community health forward for a long time and we didn't raise our voices, but it's really important that we understand as we talk about reopening that live music venues are businesses of mass gathering, right? We were the first to close, we're going to be the last to open, and our businesses aren't modelled around social distancing in terms of profitability or sustainability even. So when the Prime Minister has talked about a path to reopening and when our state government talked about a path to reopening, it's always with this notion of 1.5 metres between people or a 4 metre square social distance. And the music industry has had to kind of stand up and say, listen, venues actually can't work that way and we're going to fold. And in Victoria particularly, what's lost there is not just a bunch of privately owned businesses, but in fact an entire culture and scene that's been developed over decades and is really hard to replace. So the venues are saying, look, it's not that we're the only thing that matters just in terms of music. It's that we are the bones of the industry. We're the critical infrastructure, where the artists work, where the techs work, where the PA providers put their equipment, the constellation of kind of media and publicists that are attached to the industry, all of these other suppliers. We're a massive part of the tourism industry in Melbourne, but also the nighttime economy. And all these things rely on this infrastructure that, could very easily fall over without government intervention. So we've put together Save Our Scene, which is a petition to the Victorian Parliament to say, hey, we know that the Victorian government particularly appreciates how vital live music culture and industry is in Victoria. So, if you want us to be around at the end of this, you need to put your hands in your pockets because otherwise we're not going to be.
Now, great. Now, obviously there's an open letter. So what we need to do is get as many people to sign that as possible. As many names, as many artists, as many production companies, every single person involved in this ecosystem, this music and event ecosystem, get them to sign this. So where can they actually find the letter, Simone?
Absolutely. So the website, the easiest way to find it is to go to saveourscene.com.au. You can read the open letter. You can read a very kind of heartfelt messaging around why this is important. And there's a link through to the Victorian government petition site. It's a formal petition to Parliament being sponsored by MP Fiona Patton. If you're on your phone, just a hot tip, you actually need to scroll down. It's not very easy to navigate because it is, of course, a proper government website. We've got about 11,000 signatures just in the last week, but we definitely need everyone who cares about it to get on board. So please do go along and sign. That's my dog raising in the background, raising his
Manny.
Hey, Simone, congratulations on, moving forward with, with like industry solution. Now, what I love is that Melbourne is an inclusive culture, and you've all bound together for an outcome. So I guess what I'd love to do is see how we in Queensland, like others in New South Wales, South Australia, etc., how we can also get involved in your particular situation as well to actually support the outcome. I think it's very interesting to see that there's a very strong lobby from the sporting side, and that I look at that and look at the solutions that they're coming up with. When you're in a seat in a crowd, you're not 1.5 metres away from the next person. I think that that's going to be very interesting. So the sporting lobby is a very strong lobby. We need to be inclusive nationally so we can come out with a tailor-made solution for our industry as well, because we're all on the same page and on the same side. So what are your thoughts about combining nationally with a lobby?
I totally agree, Manny. And, one of the reasons why Save Our Scene came out the way that it did as a kind of Victorian focus, in fact, venues focused initiative, is because, I had been looking since the beginning of the crisis for some kind of unity at a national level in the music industry broadly. And there have been a lot of problems with people coming together. It's an industry that's on a commercial level very divided. Everyone's kind of in their corner. We don't actually have a really coherent...
Central.
People have
central lobby we don't have. Right. We don't have a central lobby.
And beyond that, there's a lot of mistrust, people who don't necessarily want to share information with other people, and then interest groups that represent vastly different parts of the music economy. So, for example, you've got your really big players in your international music companies that work in Australian context, your kind of Live Nations and TEGs, your big players like your Frontiers. And, they're really valuable. They're huge employers and economic benefit generators, but it's a really different story at that level to, a grassroots scene, whether it's in Brisbane or in Melbourne or in Sydney. So it just, that coherence hasn't been there, although I do know that, the representatives of each state bodies, so Music Victoria and Music New South Wales and Q Music, are actually speaking to each other and working on sharing information, particularly around reopening. The industry more broadly needs to recognise this moment as a great opportunity to form a coherent national lobbying group. And I know that there are a lot of people who are trying to put that together in the ticketing sector, in the booking sector. So I guess, if that group doesn't quite exist yet, I think it's kind of emergent. I think it's sort of just important that everyone who's in the industry recognises that, we have a really powerful story to tell if we're united. So when that call comes to maybe join a kind of national group, a lobby group, it's in everyone's interest to do so. It's going to be kind of a weird fit for music because we're all kind of used to plowing our own furrows, but it's, this thing has shown us that it's really critical that we do that.
Yep, it's time.
100%.
Absolutely time. So guys, look, I'm going to send everyone in this post to Save Our Scene. Make sure you sign it. Make sure you engage. And I think anyone else in the industry who's watching this is a call to arms. It is time. Let us get together and create that coherent national body and see if we can actually start saying, when they say we're in this together, let's really be in this together. So Simone, thank you so much for talking to us today. We really appreciate you for what you've done for this campaign, the messaging that you're bringing to these industries, and for taking the time to talk to us. Take care, and we'll be in touch. Thank you, Simone. Thanks, Matt.
Simone.